Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.
This is True Crime Cast. Jamie and John, what's up?
Dude, how you doing, man?
I'm all right, buddy. All right.
We will have survived the Tennessee-Kentucky game, but that game has not taken place at the time of this recording. But when this releases, we may not be friends in real life. We'll see.
You know, I'm kind of checked out on college football. Kentucky's terrible, so I don't even know if I'll watch it. That way we can stay friends. We can keep the show going. I'll take one for the team and not care about the game.
But if Kentucky wins, I probably won't want to see you for at least a month.
At least. So we may have a little delay here. Just kidding. Guys, we appreciate you all listening. We got a lot of comments coming in over on Spotify, so I want to share a few of those. This was on the Logan Tipton case. And Donald says, my heart goes out to this family. And as a father, yes, I do not blame this little boy's father for making those comments. I live in Florida. We do not need any other state's felons. We've got plenty of our own. Donald, you were very correct. And then from Ty, who I think messaged us looking for this episode, it's about the Ken McElroy story. And he says, something I find crazy is how a journalist went later and the general feel from the town was that he needed to go. So everybody, that was where essentially a citizen mob executed somebody and did not rat each other out. So that was a fun episode a couple years ago. Again, Ken McElroy is the name of that one.
Man, that's awesome. So thank you guys so much. I do want to say thank you to a couple of folks who joined us over on Patreon this week. We have Jackson coming in at the $7 a month level, and then we have Chris. So Jackson, your autograph is in the mail, maybe already in your hands by the time you hear this. And Chris, we thank you, both of you, so much. Appreciate you all.
Yeah, guys, we are very thankful that you ever listen to us talk about crime. Today's story is it's an older story in that, it's just a different time when this happened, and I wonder how much of this would have happened had the victim found herself in 2025 instead of the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a situation that is still possible today, but I think there are some safeguards in place that makes it a little bit more difficult. But man, I'm excited to jump into this one. This is a crazy case. Why don't you get the ball rolling?
December 27th, 1986. We're going to talk about Cara Knott. On this date, she called her parents from her boyfriend's house about 40 minutes from home, which was El Calhoun in California. Cara was a junior at the time at San Diego State, studying to be an elementary school teacher. She was 20 years old and living on her own. Her family said she was an environmentalist, an animal lover, and a skilled artist. That Christmas in 1986, Cara had spent it with her boyfriend because he had the flu. She got in her 1968 Volkswagen Beetle and started down the interstate to head to her parents' home from her boyfriend's house. And again, she called and said, I'm coming home. But she never made it.
And it wasn't like her to be late, and especially if she was going to be late, to not have any contact with her family. So when she didn't make it home, obviously her family got very worried, nervous, right? They knew that if she had passed a payphone and knew she was going to be late, then she would have called to let her family know that she was okay and that would just be a little delayed. The Knott family called 4 different law enforcement agencies along her route, and each of them confirmed that there were no accident reports involving a Volkswagen, and none of them would make a missing person report or investigate since she hadn't been missing long enough. Her mother started calling local hospitals, but no one who looked like Cara had been admitted. So they basically had no luck, no help. Cara's family went out to look for her themselves. They spent all night retracing her drive that she would have taken. They went up freeways, they took off ramps, they scanned parking lots and construction sites, but just trying to find any sign they could for their daughter.
Yeah, and this is kind of what I'm talking about with technology. You would have been able to potentially track her phone, or if she was on her way home and getting late, you call her, she is reachable on the drive. Back in 86, she called before she left her boyfriend's house. There's no way to contact her between here and there, which is a different world than we live in today.
I was having dinner with my mother and father-in-law the other day, and they were talking about they had made a trip with some friends from Tennessee to Dallas, Texas, and that on their way back home to Tennessee, the two cars got split up going through Dallas, and then they never rejoined each other. And a payphone is useless in that situation because the other car doesn't have a way to get, a hold of anybody. And the other car had one of their children in it. So it's a totally different world, right? I mean, I can't imagine not being able to talk to my son or daughter if I wanted to.
And I wonder what kind of shock teenagers today would have if they were put in this situation of, I'm completely on my own. I don't know.
My daughter said that she wished she could live in the 90s just to know. And I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
Like, yeah, it was better, but you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, but yeah, Cara was essentially, you're out on an island left by yourself if you're between locations and nobody to find you. But they continued to search throughout the night. Just as the sun was coming up, Cara's sister and her husband found Cara's white Volkswagen Beetle parked in a cul-de-sac near Mercy Road off of Interstate 15. The driver's side window was open, and they could see her keys still in the ignition. And this reminds me of Crystal Rogers. They found her car on the side of the road, keys still in it. There was a Chevron gas card and receipt in the passenger seat of her car. So she had stopped and gotten gas on her way. All of her other belongings were in the back. Everything she needed was in the car. So if she wasn't with the car, she had nothing. So the family rushed to a payphone to call the police, and this time authorities actually showed up. Investigators arrived at the scene and immediately started searching the nearby area. Shortly after the search began, they found Cara's body. It was lying in a nearby ravine below a bridge. She was fully dressed, still wearing her purple sweatsuit and wearing her white boots her boyfriend had seen her wearing when she left his house.
It was later determined that Cara had been strangled by some kind of ligature. Her autopsy showed no signs of a sexual assault. The community was definitely on edge. So 2 days after Cara was found, local San Diego station KCST TV sent a reporter to do a ride-along with the sergeant of a California Highway Patrol. So this was a really neat idea, like do a ride-along with the police department. In this segment, Officer Craig Pyer offered safety tips for stranded motorists along I-15. We actually have that clip, so let's listen to that now.
Now, once you get into a car with somebody, you're at their mercy.
If your car should become disabled, the rule of thumb is stay inside. There are signs you can get to put on the back window to summon for help. If strangers should offer assistance, tell them to call police or the CHP.
Just stay in the vehicle, lock all the doors, turn on the emergency flashers, and wait for help to come. Even if you have to wait all night, it's better to be in the safety of your vehicle and spend the night than to try to walk and get assistance. Now let's step up in front of the patrol car.
Because if you do decide to walk, the CHP says you never know who you may meet along the road.
Anything could happen. Being a female, you could be raped, robbed if you're a male, all the way to where you could be killed. Once you get in that other person's car, you're at their mercy.
The gas tank is broken under the bottom, right? And you can't fill it up.
The bottom line, though, is that preventing all this trouble is easy. Be sure your car works. And as simple as it sounds, be sure you've got gas. Because even if you're lucky enough to get some, you still may be taking your life in your own hands.
Do you realize how dangerous it is?
Yes, I realize. In fact, I was putting the gas in, and an 18-wheeler came by and almost blew me away. Truthfully.
Pyre was a 13-year veteran with the police department, and that was his usual route. That was the same area where Cara was found. This guy seemed to be a model police officer. He was professional, he was knowledgeable, but during that clip, what you can't see when you just listen to it, but if you want to pull it up on YouTube, definitely should, the viewers could not help but notice he had visible scratches on his face. Now, he explained these away by saying that he had fell into a chain link fence, but it really stood out.
Yeah, he said he fell at the precinct in the parking lot, which again, 2025, we have cameras on that. So we can go look and see if he fell into the fence or not. But the scratches, yes. And this was, like we said, shortly after Cara's body was found.
I had a fall at church because I'm a boomer now, apparently, and it is captured on the surveillance footage, and my wife has graciously shared that with numerous people.
Yeah, I'd like to put that on Patreon. After this news segment aired, there were a lot of women who called police to say that they had had strange and uncomfortable encounters with that same officer that was on the news segment. That's Craig Pyre. Many of these women resembled Cara, were around her age, same kind of hairstyle, drove small cars. In fact, 7 of them who called in were also driving Volkswagen Beetles when he pulled them over. Women said the officer had stopped them at night for trivial offenses and directed them to the same unlit off-ramp where Cara's car was found off I-15. They said he wasn't hostile or violent towards them, but they did say that he made them feel uncomfortable. He was 36 years old. Again, they were all around 20. This is an individual in power getting you in a secluded area. It's a horrible, horrible scenario to find yourself in. From the reports of these women, these incidents lasted as long as 90 minutes. But when he pulled men over, records show that those encounters lasted less than 10 minutes. So
that's
not
still a long time, right?
Yeah, I don't know. And in the few times I've been pulled over, I feel like when they go back to their car with your license and insurance, that they take 7 years.
Yeah.
So
90 minutes is a crazy long time. I feel like 10 minutes is still long, but yeah, I mean, it's a different time period in life.
And as it turns out, several of these women had made complaints with the police department about Pyre before Cara's murder. They were dismissed because he had a great reputation. Again, was a 13-year veteran and was looked up to at the police department by everybody pretty much.
As these women's stories became more and more public, it eventually forced the California Highway Patrol to look into Pyre. Homicide investigators soon had enough evidence to make an arrest, and they arrested Officer Pyre on January 15th, 1987, and he was charged with first-degree murder. Authorities believed that Cara left her boyfriend's house and stopped for gas at the Chevron station 10 miles north of where her body was found. A clerk at that station said that he saw Cara pull in, buy her gas, and then leave and get on the southbound ramp. Transaction records show that that was at around 8:30 p.m. The attendant also remembered seeing a marked California Highway Patrol vehicle make a U-turn on the road just after Cara drove away. At 9:30 p.m., an attendant at another gas station about 7 miles south of the off-ramp where Cara was found saw Pyre pull in. She described him as nervous, disheveled. He had scratches on his face, like the same scratches that were in the video when he was doing the ride-along with reporters.
Yep, they matched.
She asked how he was, and he replied that he was having a rough night, and even his wife noted the scratches on his face when he got home that night. Investigators were firm in their belief that he had killed Cara somewhere between 8:30 and 9:30 that night. Then he threw Cara's body over the edge of a bridge and into a creek, and she landed about 75 feet below on a dry creek bed.
When we get back from the break, we'll talk about the trial and the other details that came back about Officer Pyre.
Do you ever feel like your ideas just get lost when you're on the go? The truth is, your best thinking won't wait until you're back at your desk. It happens when you're on the move. Meet Remarkable Paper Pro Move, the paper tablet that keeps up with your mind and notes, wherever you are. It's like if your favorite notebook could connect to the digital world, take notes on a display that feels just like paper, and then pick it up later on your laptop. All your work syncs to the cloud. It's effortless. And unlike your other devices, there are no digital distractions that fight for your attention. So you can focus on what or who is right in front of you. Remarkable Paper Pro Move is smaller than a paperback and slips right into your jacket pocket, but the battery lasts up to 2 weeks, so it's ready whenever you need it. There's a better way to capture your thoughts on the go. Get your Remarkable Paper Pro Move today at remarkable.com.
When officers took the case to court, they presented the idea that Pyre had pulled Cara over, gotten her to a secluded area, and then tried to force himself upon her sexually. She tried to defend herself, and when this happened, he reacted in violence and ended her life. Cara's mom said the two of them had taken self-defense classes together where they learned one thing to do: make sure you scratch your attacker's face. As a result, tissue was found under Cara's fingernails. It was thought to be from the scratches seen on Pyre's face. It was also suggested by the prosecution that Pyre had struck Cara with his California Highway Patrol flashlight before strangling her. They presented to the jury large graphic photos of each and every one of her injuries, aligning the edges of the flashlight with a bruise over her right eye. They presented the idea that a rope found in the trunk of Pyre's patrol car was used to strangle Cara. They also believed that after he had killed her, he put her on the hood of his car to drive her to the ravine so that her DNA fibers, well, not DNA, but her blood, hair, and fibers wouldn't end up in the car because DNA wasn't a thing then. So he put her on the hood to transport her to this bridge. The pathologist who performed Cara's autopsy testified that the ligature marks on her neck were the same width, about 3/8 of an inch, as the rope they found in Pyre's car.
This might be one of the most disturbing things I've heard in a long time, right? I mean, this is how, and I know some people won't like to hear this, but like when I lived in the country years and years ago, and that's how people would transport like deer that had been harvested.
Yeah.
So this, like, no regard for human life.
Yeah, she was something to be discarded to him.
Insane. So, like you said, there wasn't DNA, but there was blood, and there were fiber pieces of evidence as well. So the fiber included pieces of purple fibers from Cara's sweatpants, and those were found on Pyre's gun belt and on his boot and the bridge where she was disposed of. They also connected a gold thread found on Cara's clothes to Pyre's California Highway Patrol patch. The blood that was found on Cara's boots and sweatshirt matched Pyre's blood type. And there was a drop of blood on Pyre's boots that matched Cara's rare blood type, which was AB negative. Because it was the 1980s, like you said, DNA testing was not available. So you cannot like 100% conclude that these were the blood of each person, but knowing the type and knowing, it's just, it all makes the puzzle pieces fit together, right?
Yeah, it does. And with the blood type piece, a lot of times that was used to exclude people. Well, if we found O negative blood and the suspect didn't have that, then that's potentially some reasonable doubt depending on the circumstances. But here, especially with her rare blood type, it just makes it seem more likely that he was involved.
There were also 24 women in total who testified at this trial and said that Pyre had stopped them at night for minor traffic violations at the same spot where Cara was killed. But jurors questioned the credibility of the two witnesses who testified seeing the California Highway Cruiser stop a Volkswagen Bug on the Mercy off-ramp the night Cara was killed. So the jury had to deliberate, and it would take them 7 days, and they were deadlocked at a 7-5 split in favor of conviction. Now, you and I have spoke, and that's not a majority rule situation. It has to be unanimous. So the judge declared a mistrial in February 1988, and believe it or not, Pyre was free on bail.
Every piece of those last two sentences you said shocked me. The fact that they were deadlocked, that it was a mistrial, and that he was let out on bail. Yeah, I mean, obviously, our lens is starting off with him being the suspect, right? So everything looks like it falls on him, but apparently these witnesses were just so shady that the jurors didn't believe them that they had seen that car. Cara's family complained that the first trial was completely disorganized. For the second trial, a few months later, the DA brought in a new prosecutor who presented new evidence. Pyre did not testify in his own defense at all, or end up speaking at his sentencing hearing. Spoiler alert, he was found guilty this time, guilty of the first-degree murder of Cara Knott. On August 4th of 1988, Pyre was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. He still to this day maintains his innocence. In 2004, a wrongful conviction program offered to do a DNA test for him to prove his innocence in the case. He refused to do it. 2004, DNA wasn't great, but it was coming around and getting there, John. You would think that anybody who claims innocence would want that to be tested, right? I think a lot of people who are even guilty want it to be tested just because maybe there'll be a mess up that I'll get out. It's my only chance, whatever. But especially if you're innocent, you would want to do that, right?
I mean, that's where my mind is. I can't imagine that this is a situation where even though you know you're innocent, maybe like in movies, people are just so used to being in jail, they don't know life on the outside and all that crap. But this isn't a movie, and that's your life. So yes, if I was innocent and there was something that could help me prove my innocence, you better believe it.
And he was a police officer. When police officers get put in prison, they aren't exactly welcomed with open arms and handshakes. That same year, he actually had a parole hearing. This was after serving 17 years of his 25-year sentence. When asked why he would not provide a DNA sample, Pyre refused to answer. And that answer and his lack of remorse led the board to deny his parole. He was also up for parole in 2008 and 2012. And this 25-year sentence, that was a minimum 25 to life, right? So he was denied parole in both 2008 and 2012. And I want to go back just a second to, if he is claiming his innocence, it's hard to show remorse for something you didn't do. So I am always kind of not baffled, but it puts people in a weird spot. And again, they're in prison for murder. So do I care if they're in a weird spot? I don't really know. It depends on the circumstances. But if I am innocent and they're telling me I have to say I was guilty and that I'm sorry for it, that's an interesting dichotomy there.
Yeah, I think back to a time where, and this is a stretch, but just go with me. You and I were playing a game with our youth at church, and it was a game where it was adults versus students. And at one point in the game, one of the adults would find out that they were a traitor, right? Well, everyone becomes suspicious of everybody at that point, and you thought I was the traitor, but I was not. And I was adamant. And I was adamant for like 15 minutes. And then after a while, I was like, you know what? There's nothing I'm saying that's going to convince him at this point. So whatever he thinks, but I'm not the traitor. Imagine.
I remember that very differently. You yelled at me a lot, but go on.
Well, I'm just thinking like, yeah, maybe he doesn't show remorse because of what you said, but also after over 25 years, if he is innocent, how long is he going to remain adamant? Because maybe in his mind, he's just built up the belief that nobody believes me anyway. I'm not like, I'm screwed. I'm here, whatever.
I also want to be perfectly clear that I think all of the evidence points to his guilt, and I think he did it. But I'm just pointing out that oddity of the parole system.
Absolutely. Let me talk about someone we have not discussed yet. Her name is Courtney Unger. She was 12 years old when Cara was killed, and Cara babysat Courtney. And Courtney still misses Cara to this day. And when it came time for Pyre to meet the parole board, she was one of the hundreds of people who wrote a letter asking the parole board to deny parole and make Pyers stay in prison. She said, quote, "I don't want to see him out. Never. Not ever. He took a life, and that life was precious," end quote. Pyers' next parole hearing will not be until January of 2027, and at that time he'll be 77 years old. And if he is guilty of Cara's murder, then I don't think he should be let out of prison. That's probably why I'm never asked to be on a parole board.
Well, and it's been about 40 years, so that 25 to life is certainly working the way it's supposed to, in my opinion.
For sure. He's been a model citizen since he's been in jail. He has almost a perfect record. He's been working as an electrician in the facility, and he makes $52 a month doing that. I personally, if you are in prison, it costs taxpayers a lot of money to house you, and I feel like you shouldn't make any money. I feel like it should be free service, and I'm sorry if that offends you, but my tax money is keeping this man there so he could at least make money and that go towards like feeding him.
I wonder, there had to be like a landmark case that changed that law, right? I'm sure that wasn't always the case. They get to have jobs. I thought most of the time it was just for them to have something to do and for the prison to be able to do some things they want to hire people for, but for paying people. And again, that's not a lot of money, but
yeah, if there's a state service that needs labor and you have a prison full of able-bodied men or women who could do said service, then there's really no need to pay private citizens to do that. You've got people who are being housed for free, and by free, I mean by taxpayer money. So make them do it. And if that offends you, I'm sorry. Maybe this isn't the podcast for you.
No, I think there's some intricacies to consider there because they're not there on their own volition. They're not like, I'm going to stay here because it's free. So, but I also agree with you. Like, why are we, I think there is some kind of commissary in prison where they can use that money to buy things.
Yeah.
Maybe it needs to be a credit system instead of actual dollars. Would that make you feel better?
No, if their family wants to give money to a commissary, fine. I would also be fine if we just got rid of commissaries altogether.
Like even
Cara doesn't get to enjoy a soda pop, so why should he?
There you go.
That's
I
told you I got in trouble in high school for a persuasive essay that was written well. Just the teacher did not agree with my stance on things, so I got a C. But anyway,
see me after class. Am I right?
Yeah, he actually wrote, "What's wrong with you, Bailey?" on my paper and gave it back to me. So anyway, he had been married to his third wife 18 months before Cara was murdered, and she actually visited this guy regularly until she eventually filed for divorce in 2007. That's a lot of visits to a prison. I can't imagine why I would want to remain married to someone who had done something awful and was in prison.
I have to think that she assumed he was innocent. That's 20 years of hanging on and helping him fight through appeals and trying to be supportive. So I can't imagine somebody doing that if they really believe that he was guilty. Again, I could be way off. I can't imagine a lot of stuff that we cover on this podcast. Cara's dad, Sam Knott, was a former stockbroker, and he never gave up on his daughter. He never one single time called Officer Pyre by his name. He would only refer to him as the monster.
That's probably a lot nicer than what I would want to call him.
Love that. The years that he spent campaigning, again, they found her like the next day. It wasn't like she was missing for a long time, and they caught who most believed to be her killer. But her dad went on to campaign for local and state law enforcement to install technology that would always allow them to monitor officer locations, which there are certainly GPS ways to do that. Body cams are very common, so that continues to move forward. He also asked law enforcement to ease the standard of 48 hours of missing before somebody can be determined a missing person and a bulletin sent out to officers, which I think over the years we figured out that that's so inconsistent across jurisdictions, and some places stick to it and some will jump right on a case when somebody's missing. It's very non-standard, right?
Yeah, you're right. I wish it was kind of a more cohesive system where it was the same rules everywhere, no matter where you are. But yeah, that's the system we live in.
In the years after Cara's death, many agencies in the area and throughout California installed monitoring systems to keep track of their officers. They also shortened the waiting period for reporting a missing person, but there is still a waiting period, which I understand why we do that, but I feel like there should certainly be caveats. In San Diego County, an $83 million communication system now links law enforcement and emergency services to enable cooperation and coordination, but also to be able to track the whereabouts of, again, these people are working with our tax dollars. So to be able to hold them more accountable while they're on the job.
Yeah, it's a good protection for both, taxpayers and police officers all the same. I mean, officers put their lives on the line every single day. So if there's someone that wants to hurt a police officer, hopefully this system, if an officer is not able to call in while they're on a call that they are hurt, maybe this system can help other authorities get to them quicker. Sam and his wife Joyce have created an organization for parents of missing children to inform them of their rights and to also just inform them of what options are available. They do a lot of other stuff. They award scholarships through the Cara Knott Foundation. Then in 1999, Sam and others dedicated a park at the murder site to Cara and other murder victims. Sam would go on to plant oak trees there, and today all the tree trunks are surrounded by memorials of other victims of violent crimes and missing persons. The largest memorial is for Cara Knott, and Sam tended to that garden frequently. In a cruel twist of fate, on November 30th, 2000, Sam Knott died of a heart attack only a few yards from where Cara's body was discovered after working on the memorial garden. A bench has been placed in that garden in his honor. And just a hard story all the way around. There are people who believe that Pyre is innocent. I feel like everything that we have, all the evidence that we have, while, mostly circumstantial based on the evidence that could be known, it seems like he did it.
I think so too. And I think it seems circumstantial now considering the standard of proof we have with new technologies. But back then, that seems like a pretty solid case. If you've got his blood type on her, her blood type on him, fibers on his belt and at the dump site, like it seems it can be circumstantial up to a point where it can no longer be coincidence.
If there were obvious indicators of his innocence in this case, and now the technology is available, I mean, I would assume that it would be legal for a judge to order that he give his DNA, right? They could do a warrant, but in this case, he's already been tried and convicted. So I guess the court's opinion is there's no legal way that we should force him. He's already been convicted. But is there, like, I don't know, would you like to see this done just to 100% confirm it? Or is it one of those loopholes where you don't really have to? It's already done.
I think that's a slippery slope. If we start doing that, then we're going to be doing that for so much. Especially for cases that, I don't know, are no longer being appealed or very open and shut. I just feel like it's a waste of resources, and we don't have enough resources to deal with crimes that are happening now. So if he's asking for it, and I think there is cause to say, okay, let's check and see if this does exclude you, then yes, let's do it. But he doesn't seem to be fighting for it. Actually, he's against it. So
if I were a judge and that was offered to him and he said, no, I'm good, that just further solidifies that the court got it right.
Yeah, I completely agree, because there is no logical reason to not want a DNA test if you're claiming innocence.
I think going back to the first trial, though, I mean, there was enough there that 5 of the jury members were voting no, he is not guilty. And is it fair to say that all really rested on those that were working at the gas stations that night? And just because they were viewed as, I don't know the best way to say it, but not worthy enough to really be reliable in their testimony?
Man, I'd love to find a study about the number of trials that end in mistrial and the results that happened at the following trial to see how did we go from 7 people to 12 with a completely new group? What was it about the first trial or those first 12 people, Yeah, I don't know. It's just so fascinating to me because it was a different prosecutor, maybe some different angles. Did the prosecution just do a better job? Or was the first group tainted in some way? Or the second group tainted in some way?
Yeah, there was just so much evidence that pointed to him. But think about this now, dude. If this was a case in today's court, is fiber analysis even a thing that is going to hold up? And of course, DNA would be used instead of just the simple blood test kit. So I feel like this case is going to be solved even faster in today's world.
Yeah, I think the DNA would do it, and I think it would be faster. But I also like in this situation, bright purple fibers on his police belt that match her sweatshirt and sweatpants. That does seem compelling, but it would not carry near the weight that it had to back in the 80s.
Yep. And something that I did not hear that I think would have been brought up today if this case happened were his DNA under her fingernails. And then that's, lock the guy up and never set a parole date.
Right. They did have skin cells under her fingernails. We couldn't DNA test, but it did, from my understanding, they were able to blood test and match that to him. So
yep.
At least it's the same blood type. I thought you were going to say polygraph and we were going to have to fist fight.
No, I don't want to polygraph this guy. I think we have enough that there's no reasonable doubt in my mind for this one.
Certainly a sad case. And I'm always amazed by these families that endure such trauma and then go on to do great things with it like the Knott family did. So thankful there are strong, powerful people to do that and hopefully keep other people safe. This is a fascinating look, like a time travel back to the 80s to look at this case and look at it through the lens of kids that grew up then. And we have a lot of listeners who are not our age, so it's going to be interesting to get their take on it retroactively.
Yeah, I really don't think that they could comprehend how much different life was back then. But guys, regardless of what age demographic you fall in, we appreciate each and every one of you. And a special thanks to those who continue to be fans or supporters of Patreon. And if you're thinking about it, go over there and check it out. For $3 a month, you get a bonus episode that's only available to you as a Patreon member.
Would love to hear your feedback and case suggestions. So let us know what you think, and we'll be back next time.
Until next crime, this has been True Crimecast.
You've listened to True Crimecast, distributed by Stoveleg Media. Check out stoveleg.com to find out more about your hosts and to find other podcasts to listen to. Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.